Yo, so today I'm going to be breaking down a Spanish guitar melody, but it's also kind of orchestral, so I had no clue who would actually use this kind of melody, but it sounds pretty cool. Alright, so before we start, this was supposed to be from scratch. I tried to record like 3 different things last night. Just was not happening. It all turned out very unpleasant sounding. But yeah, there'll be a majority of from scratch videos next week, because I know that is a better kind of video to watch. Alright, so this is kind of similar to some of the other Spanish guitar melodies I've made in the past. But instead of using an Omnisphere guitar, I was trying out ample guitar because I really haven't used it that much. So I started off with that, and I came up with this really simple pattern. It's very repetitive, and it is in the 1/3 step, so it's in triplets. And I just kind of use the same process that I use in my dark melodies, like using the notes that are next to each other in the scale. They generally sound kind of dark. And I already had a plan for like this melody, how I wanted to combine like an orchestral, like Lil Baby piano type melody with like a Spanish guitar like bass to it. Yeah, so like I mentioned before, I started off by just making these 2 tiny little things here and just copied it over for the whole melody, and then duplicated that over, pitched it up 5 so it's in the same scale, but it is just higher and has a little bit of a different tone to it. After that, I went into this section here and made this, and I believe I saw Exquisite Beatz do this, but in some of his melodies, he like switches from like half step to 3rd step, so I kind of did that here. So normally this note here would have been right there, but I made it be in half step and then did the 3rd step after it. So it gives a kind of cool little roll there going into the next section. And then I repeated that there and also down here. It's just a nice little like variation and kind of like a transition noise into like the different parts of the melody. Then I went up and just duplicated the bass note up, added some more triplets where I saw fit, and then just copied that over again and then added variation at the end so it doesn't get too boring. Even though this bass note changes, it's still really repetitive and gets a little bit old rather quickly. And then for the second half, I just moved these 2 little sections that were at D over here, and I copied the F and the E over. So again, a little bit more variation. And that is pretty much the only change for the second half. Next, what I wanted to try out ample guitar for was the like slap and slide noises. I thought that would be something like interesting to try to make it seem a little bit more realistic. So this F is a like your fingers sliding on the fretboard or something. So I added that after like the first section is over and it changes to like a different chord. So it'd sound like you're actually like shifting your hand there. And then I added a slap at the beginning of each one. I just thought that kind of sounded cool and they kind of go together. Final thing is Alt S to strum everything, make it feel a little bit more human, actually played and not just written on the MIDI. And then I did Alt R to randomize like always. So after all that, here's what the pattern sounds like. So I really like the way those slide things came out. That's like my favorite part of this melody. And for the effects on that, reverb chorus on the default preset brought down 3/4 of the way, cut on the lows, and then an imager just put up a little bit to make it feel a tad wider. Alright, so for the next sound, I just used the LA Custom C7 grand piano, just the basic one, and I came up with this pattern. So how I came up with this is it's the same pattern as the Spanish guitar, but I just copied everything from the original Spanish guitar melody, and I deleted the F and F sharp that did the slide and smack. And it was originally down an octave, pitched it up an octave, and then added 2 bass notes to make it feel really deep. And then I just duplicated this last triplet down an octave to kind of give it a little bit of a better transition, make it a little bit more smooth. So yeah, here's what this pattern sounds like. Same pattern as the Spanish guitar, but sounds a little bit cool. And this is kind of where it gets the start of that like Lil Baby orchestral feel. But those two together still do sound pretty good. Alright, so next for the accent sound of like the start of each little chord, I added this forte string from one of the exotic kits, I think volume 2. And it's a one shot because I don't have like any like orchestral contact banks that sound crazy, so I just use one shots for string sounds pretty much. And I copied the chords. I'm pretty sure this is the chord, and then I messed with the voicing because this little triplet roll at the end did not sound good going back into that chord. And as you can see here, I also messed it up a little bit here just to add a little bit of variation and just overall make the melody more smooth. And also for this sound, it has like a crackle at the end, so I turned up the out knob so it cuts off sooner. So if it's off, it sounds like this. So you see you get that crackle, and I turned it up to about here. So you get a little bit less of that and just is overall a more clean sound. So here's what this pattern sounds like. And then for these last rolls, I have it going down in velocity, so it kind of like trickles out. And how you do that is, this was all at the same note, so I just did Alt and left click and like swiped across to normalize everything. But if you take the first note, you have that selected, right click and then drag down, you can get an even sweep. Very useful tip for hi-hats and rolls like this. Yeah, so after those three sounds, the melody feels pretty full and almost complete, but I had a few things that I wanted to do to kind of change it up a little bit, but here is the melody so far. And everything cut out there at the end, but I'll show you why I did that later. Alright, so the next sound is this vibey mallet from Pvlace kit. It's a one shot. And this is probably my favorite mallet right now, even from like the felt mallet from Omnisphere. This one just sounds crazy to me. I don't even know why. But again, copies the Spanish guitar melody, but then I did the same stuff as the piano melody. So there's 2 rows of bass notes and then that little note there to kind of transition everything. And then I think I changed the velocities around from the piano melody because this mallet sounds really good at low octaves. It just sounds like super full, and I boosted those and then kind of lowered the top part and randomized it just a little bit different. Yeah, so here's what this melody sounds like. Yeah, and then I have some effects on that that are just to make it like blend better with the piano. So I have low filter and a phaser on it just to kind of keep it in the background. And then in the arrangement with this mallet, I have it soloed right here, and it's pretty much soloed right here because the guitar just kind of barely comes in. Then you can see here there's automation clips for the phaser and the low filter, so it drops out. So it sounds a lot like higher pitched and loud here because I also boosted the volume. So I kind of mixed it so it would fit in the background through this automation clip in, so it would be loud for this part. So here's what it sounds like without all those effects and boosted in volume just a little bit. Yeah, so I thought that sounded really cool, like soloed for this part. All right, so the next sound, again, from one of those exotic one-shot kits is this, no, this is from the Flowers one-shot kit, I think. I don't know, those are my 2 like favorite one-shot kits that I use all the time, but it's the fake guitar. and it just plays this pattern. I didn't really like the way this turned out, but it still kind of fit with the melody, so I left it in. These like two neck sounds were like, could have left them out, but just threw them in anyways. So here's what this sounds like. The only like thing is there's like a slide note there. That's pretty much it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. There's really not nothing to it. Alright, so the last like melodic sound besides the bass is this flamenco player from Arcade, and it's playing on G, so that is this one. It sounds pretty cool when it's on its own, but in the melody, I did not like the way it turned out, but it stayed in there, so I figured I'd show it, but it just plays that G over and over again, and then it has halftime, old telephone EQ, adjusted a little bit, ambience on that Gator preset I used a lot in the last video, and then pancake. Basically for this sound, I thought it would sound cool as like a background ambience kind of sound, but it just kind of doesn't. So here's what it sounds like. It just sounds very It's like not great. And then for the last sound that I thought turned out really good is the Big Fatty from Omnisphere. It's a bass. And with this bass, you have to turn the attack up. I put it up to 1.4-ish, 1.5, because it does click at the beginning for some reason. And I'm not going to play the actual pattern right now because I have it rendered out, so I'll play that. But it just does the root notes and then copies that little triplet note that I duplicated down for the piano pattern, and then also copies the roll down from the string pattern. I've kind of been experimenting with like different bass patterns and trying to make them more unique and not just playing the bass notes like I always do. So this does sound a little bit more unique and pretty cool. So here's what this sounds like. So yeah, that's pretty much it for all the melodic things, and then I'll go over the mixing stuff that I haven't really explained yet. So on the bass, this EQ cut out the highs. On the arcade, already showed that. Fake guitar, put the Gator ambience preset on again, and then this EQ because it was super high pitched. On the mallet, already showed that stuff. On the string, just reverb. You have to really put reverb on it if you cut off that tail, or it just doesn't sound realistic at all. And then on the piano, tape cassette, just on like the normal settings I usually do, reverb, low cut, and then an imager boosted all the way. Yeah, so for the arrangement, I rendered out the piano, reversed it, and just fit it up to like the edge where the drums would drop. I cut off pretty much everything else, so it kind of like bled into it, and it's almost kind of like a riser instead of an actual instrument. So that was pretty cool. And then right there, like you heard earlier, I cut everything out, added the whoosh effect again, and that has like a little pause, and then I have the ambience go up like the last video. Gives kind of like a reverse effect. It's really cool. I've been doing that a lot. And then of course ambience like trickling in at the beginning and then rising at the end, so there's a smooth transition. And then overall there's really nothing special to the rest of it. I realized that like the mallet and the arcade didn't sound good together when the mallet was soloed, so I went ahead and deleted that there, moved it over, and then yeah, just kind of messed around with like the phaser and the love filter for what sections of the mallet I wanted to be like normal pitch and which ones I wanted to be a little bit muted and have the phaser on it. Yeah, so then I ended up rendering it out, pitching it down once, so now it's in C sharp minor, and then just throwing an EQ on it, and that's just a low cut, so when the bass is not in the melody, all the lows are out, so whoever does the drums doesn't have to deal with that. So yeah, overall I think it turned out pretty good. So now I'm going to go into a new FLP. Alright, so that's going to be pretty much it for the video. What you heard before was the final beat just unmixed, so I'll play the mixed version just for a little bit after this. But yeah, thanks for watching. Sorry this video is going to be late because it's 12:44 now, so not going to be able to edit this in 20 minutes, so this will probably come out at like 6 or so. But yeah, thanks for watching. Have a fantastic rest of your day.